Before we get into today's video, I just want to let you guys know that this video is for educational purposes only. Please remember to be kind to everybody everywhere in your everyday life, in your home, in the grocery store, and especially in the comment section down below. Please do not show hate to anybody, anywhere. So good morning, good morning, good morning. How is everybody doing today? I hope you all are having an amazing day. I hope you all have had a wonderful week. I hope everybody is feeling good. So in today's video, we're going to be talking about a story about a young college-age student who went for a jog many years ago and didn't come back. This story has a lot of twists and turns in it, but there are so many fascinating elements, so make sure you stay all the way to the end of this video. Before we get into it though, I did want to let you guys know, if you don't already know, hi, my name is Christina. I do have a second channel, which is Casually Christina. We just do things way more casually over there. I also have a Patreon. My Patreon's for 18 and up. And over there we talk about more personal stuff. We go live over there. There's a $2 tier for all the true crime stuff that cannot go onto YouTube due to their terms and policies. That goes over on my Patreon under the $2 tier. Just make sure you read the full about section of what each tier offers before you join. I'm also on Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, and I'm also on Like to Know It. And Like to Know It is a platform where you can find links to a lot of the things that I use or that I like or that y'all ask about. Everything from clothing items, workout gear, furniture like this chair, earrings, makeup, skincare, cooking utensils, basically anything and everything that I want to link, I do over on my Like to Know It, and all of those platforms are linked down in the description box if you would like to come and check me out. Before we go any further, I did want to stop and thank today's sponsor, Upside. Upside is the most valuable app that you can have on your phone in 2025. With the Upside app, you can get cash back by doing the things that you do every day anyways, like going to the gas station, going to the grocery store, or even going out to restaurants. I am currently right now sitting at the gas station about to fill up my car. All I have to do is open my free Upside app like this right here. I just go to the closest gas station. I'm currently sitting at the Circle K. Now that I have clicked on the Circle K, I just go to claim, pump my gas, and then I just hit confirm linked card, and then boom, within 2 to 3 days, I will have cash back in the Upside app. There are over 100,000 gas station, grocery stores, and restaurants on the Upside app, ensuring that cash back is always just around the corner. And yes, it is real cash back. No confusing rewards, points, or credits, just actual money that you can transfer right into your bank account. And let me just show you, I currently have almost $120 that I can transfer to any of these gift cards right here, including to my bank account. To find out how much you can earn with Upside, all you gotta do is click the link down in the description box and download the free Upside app. Use my code Christina Randall and you can earn 25 cents per gallon on your first tank of gas today. Yes, all you gotta do is click the link down in the description box, download the free Upside app, use my code, and you can save today. Thanks again, Upside. So real quick, just to let y'all know, I'm not a professional. I pull all of my information from very public sources and news sources that is already out there. Please go do your own research and form your own opinions. So let's talk about Amanda Stavik. Okay, so Amanda Stavik, who was known as Mandy, was born on April 16th of 1971 in Anchorage, Alaska, to her mother, Mary. Now, Mandy has 2 siblings, a sister named Molly and a brother named Lee. And Mandy's parents ended up getting a divorce when Mandy was really young. Now, after the divorce, Mary moved Mandy and her 2 siblings to a new house in Acme, Washington. Acme was a very small town that was down Highway 9 in Washington State's rural Whatcom County. It was one of those really small towns where everyone knew everyone. It is said to have had a really safe and family feeling to it. The sheriff even said that it was a place where people did not even lock their doors at nighttime. They left their keys in the ignitions of their cars when they would leave. I mean, people just trusted each other. They trusted their neighbors. There was not a lot of crime. And again, People knew each other there. Now, Mandy and her small family lived on a dead-end street just a mile off of the highway. And again, it's a rural area, so it's a street, but all these houses are spread out. Nice winding roads, beautiful greenery, and a lovely place to live. Mandy was very well-liked and really popular in her community. And I know a lot of the times we say this, and sometimes y'all say in the comment sections, that's what a lot of people say, but when I'm telling y'all, I researched this young lady, and she truly was. She loved being outside. She enjoyed playing sports like cheerleading. She did softball. She did basketball. She ran track. She ran in her spare time. And even her mother said that she wanted to be the best at everything that she did. In 1989, Mandy graduated from Mount Baker High School, and then she went on to go to Central Washington University. Mandy was really enjoying life as an 18-year-old freshman college student. And when the Thanksgiving holiday break rolled around, Mandy decided that she was going to go back home so she could spend the holiday with her family that she absolutely adored. Now, on Thanksgiving, the family had a wonderful time together. I don't know if y'all have ever had that experience where your child is off to college and they come home for the holidays and it's just so warm and cozy and everybody's laughing and so much love, and they had a wonderful day. They enjoyed a lot of good food. They had so many good conversations. However, the family did not know on that Thanksgiving day that tragedy was just about to strike their whole family. On November 24th of 1989, the day after Thanksgiving, Mandy decided to go for a run. Now, again, this was not out of the ordinary for her. This is Friday, day after Thanksgiving. She's going to go for a run. She lets her mom know. She went out around 2:30 p.m. and she took her German Shepherd dog, Kyra. She took her usual route, which was along the street where her house was, and this was on Strand Road, and then she ran to the river and back. So her and the dog running these long roads, lots of greenery. Again, everybody knows everybody. A beautiful day, a beautiful run. Sometimes Mandy's mom would actually ride her bike alongside Mandy while she ran. But on this day, it was just Mandy and her dog, Kyra. Now, as Mandy was on her way back, she was running down Strand Street. So she's running down Strand Street with the dog, and a delivery man named David saw Mandy run past his van. Mandy's brother Lee was actually at a friend's house on the same street, and he saw Mandy running as well. So she does this long run. She's on the way back. So far, her brother is at a friend's house. Up there goes Mandy and the dog, Kyra. She gets closer to her home. The delivery truck driver, hey, good morning, how are you, sees her running back. So it seemed that Mandy would be home at any minute. However, something happened because she never made it home. Kyra, Mandy's dog, did make it back home 2 hours later. But Kyra was all alone. And you can only imagine, it gives me goosebumps to think about. She's gone for this run. It's been 2 hours. She should have been back by now. And here comes the dog walking up by herself. Kind of like in the Lacey Peterson situation when her dog returned back to the house. Now, as you can imagine, Kyra the dog showing back up to the house alone without Mandy was extremely concerning to Mandy's family. They immediately started calling around to Mandy's friends. They called her boyfriend, Rick, but no one had seen her. Mary, Mandy's mother, said that she was absolutely panicking by this point. So this is when Mary went ahead and called the police and reported her daughter missing. Now, law enforcement started searching for Mandy right away. So at this point, the whole community, this little small, tight-knit, rural, still spread out community got involved in looking for Mandy. Things like this did not happen in this area, and everyone was praying that Mandy would be found safe. Now, her sister Molly said that she was thinking maybe Mandy had just gotten hurt and needed help making her way back home. Like maybe when she was running, she fell down into a ditch or something like that. During the search for Mandy, a search and rescue team was checking side roads, and this is when they found a pair of green sweatpants. Mary, Mandy's mother, was brought to the scene to take a look at these green sweatpants. However, Mary said that she did not believe at the time that they could have been Mandy's because they were really dirty and they had a bunch of holes in them. They were sent to a lab for testing anyways, but they were never positively connected to Mandy. Then, 3 Long days later, on November 27th, Mandy's body was found in a river that she regularly ran by. It was just 3 miles from her family home, and the water was only knee deep. As a matter of fact, I saw this clip of her father being asked about pulling her out of the water, and this is what he said.
When you lifted her out of the water as a father, did you say anything to her?
You're the first person that asked that. I said, I got you.
It is said that Mandy's clothes were missing and only her shoes and socks were still on. It was later determined that Mandy had been essayed and drowned. There was no signs of a struggle at the location where Mandy was actually found, so the investigators thought that this was strange because Mandy was a really strong swimmer, yet she drowned in a very shallow river. They believed that she must have been put in the river after she was taken advantage of, and that maybe she wasn't conscious at that point. Like she had been knocked out, passed out in the water, and then she passed over. The medical examiner did find an injury on the top of Mandy's head, and Mandy also had some scratches on her arm. The lead investigator believed that Mandy must have been taken by force along her running route, then taken advantage of, but believes that at some point she must have gotten away and she was running through these like bushes that they had out there with those really thick thorns on them, and that's how she got all scratched up. Then they believe at some point whoever the suspect was caught back up with her and hit her over the head with something very hard and then placed her into the river. Now, investigators initially went straight to Mandy's boyfriend Rick and started to question him. Mandy and Rick had been dating for about 3 years. However, they were on and off at this point. Rick was actually the one that brought Mandy home for the Thanksgiving holiday. But ultimately, after her boyfriend Rick gave a statement to the police, which was described as extremely forthcoming, he was completely cleared. Now, at the time, DNA technology was not as advanced as it is today, but samples were taken anyways. The lead investigators had just completed a training course with the FBI on forensic DNA, so he figured he better get as many samples as he could just in case one day they'd come in handy. And you guys, I love the fact that people did this back then. There was not the technology to scan the DNA or test the DNA like there is now, but they still knew enough to get as much as they could and save it and preserve it. And that's exactly what this investigator did. He even sent them off to the FBI and he obtained DNA profiles for both Mandy and the suspect. However, even though he sent it off to the FBI to check what they had in their DNA registry, it was brand new and there was nobody that matched this suspect's profile. Time passed and passed while the investigators were no closer to finding who did this to Mandy. That doesn't mean that they weren't trying, though. In 2009, a new detective was assigned to Mandy's case. He came up with this idea to do a DNA sweep of as many men as he could find who were living in the Acme area back in 1989. He wanted to find them and figure out how old they were and then to make a list so he could go ask all of them for DNA samples. As they went out and they collected these samples, they tested them, and each time they were let down and there was not a match. But this detective kept telling himself one day he was going to get a match. 3 decades later, as the case still remained cold with very few leads and absolutely no suspects, there was a break in the case. In 2013, investigators finally had a suspect, a man named Timothy Bass. A woman named Mara Lee had contacted the police department to let them know that she and another woman had got to chatting one day, and they had learned that they had both had very uncomfortable encounters with Timothy around the same time that the incident with Mandy happened. Now get this. This is such like a... I don't want to hear nothing about women gossiping or being chatty or anything like that, because check this out. On a sunny afternoon in June of 2013, 2 mothers Heather and Marilee decided to bring their kids to this water park. They didn't know each other very well, but they got to chatting as their little ones were playing. They were both local to Acme when the incident with Mandy happened, and they just so happened to start talking about Mandy's case when Heather just blurted out, hey, I think I know who did this to Mandy. And Marilee said to her, oh, you do? I think I know who did this to her. So both of them told each other their uncomfortable encounters that they had with Timothy. Marilee said that Timothy was a friend of her husband's. And just envision this, you guys. One night when her husband was out of town, Timothy shows up at her house a couple years after the Mandy incident. He told Marilee that he had been out hunting and he needed to use her phone. So she's at home. Okay, she's got their brand new small baby at home with her. Her husband's out of town and she hears a knock at the door. She's like, wait a minute, who's here? It's late. Who's here? She looks out and she sees, oh, it's Timothy. It's my husband's friend. So he says, hey, I've been out hunting. Can I please use your phone? Now, Marilee said that at the time she wasn't very comfortable with the idea of letting Timothy into her home to make a phone call, but she did anyway. So you can probably imagine she's got this uncomfortable feeling. It's nighttime. You're showing up here at the house. I'm here alone. My husband's out of town. And she's probably telling herself, I'm overreacting. I'm just being paranoid. This is my husband's friend. He needs to use the phone. So she allowed Timothy to come in to use the phone. She said that when she did, Timothy gets the phone and he dials a number. She said that she could literally hear beeping sounds of the call not going through because it was an invalid number. Remember, back in the day, this was home phones, no cell phones. This is when she started to get really scared. So now it's nighttime, just her and her little ones at home, husband's out of town. She's got this guy in her house that she had a bad feeling about, and he's walking around pretending like he's on the phone, and she can hear it going, do, wrong number, and he's pretending like he's using the phone. She said that Timothy walked through the kitchen to her bedroom and started to tell her that he used to drive by her house and admire her, and he told her that he had always been in love with her. How uncomfortable. And then he tells her, hey, we should make love right here and right now. By some miracle, Marilee said that she was able to get him out of her house by threatening to call the police. But she did say that she always had a sick feeling about him after that. After Marilee told Heather that, Heather said that just a few months before the incident with Mandy, back when she was only 15 years old, Timothy was 21 years old at the time. She said that they were riding home together in a truck after a softball game. Heather said that as they were driving, Timothy started flirting very aggressively with her. Again, she's 15, he's 21. And then he took a pin out of the cup holder and started rubbing it up and down her legs. Heather said that this made her feel very uncomfortable, and she too always had a really sick feeling about Timothy after that. But because neither of them felt like they had any concrete proof or evidence against Timothy, they never told the police that they suspected that he may have had something to do with Mandy's passing. But once they told each other their stories, Marilee felt validated and she was ready to tell a detective friend of hers. This is how the investigators became aware of Timothy. So they started digging into Timothy's past. What they found was Timothy lived on the same street as Mandy's family in 1989, but he had not been contacted by the authorities to give a voluntary DNA sample. There were only a few houses between Mandy's and Timothy's, so that meant that Mandy must have passed by Timothy's house when she went on a run. Timothy knew her, and he had even gone to the same high school as Mandy. Timothy's younger brother, Tom, was actually friends with Mandy. Now, Timothy back then was described as a quiet and a loner. Some would even say that he was a bit of an oddball and had a problem in social settings or making friends and being social with people in that way. The investigators learned that Timothy had moved out of the Acme area just shortly after the incident. In 1990, he ended up marrying a woman named Gina, and he moved to Everson, which was about 19 miles north of Acme. Together, they would go on and have 3 children. And Gina, his wife, would say that Timothy could be very controlling. She said that he would tell her what to do, what to wear, and who to talk to. And she even said that when they would watch these murder mystery shows together, Timothy would always sit back and call the perpetrator stupid for not covering their tracks and for getting caught, which is so crazy to me. Because like when you're watching documentaries like that, you're typically like rooting for the investigators, and this guy's sitting here like, oh, he should have done it like this. Why didn't he do this to get away with it? Oh, he's stupid. How could he have left a fingerprint behind? I would have done it like this. Like, creepy. Hello. When the investigators learned of all of this, Timothy was actually working as a delivery driver for a bakery outlet. So the investigators decided to go and pay Timothy a little visit. Now, when they got to his home and they asked him if he knew Mandy, they said that Timothy acted like he didn't even know who she was and he didn't remember her and he wasn't familiar with her name at all. So the lead detective said that this was a pretty big red flag for him because even people that did not know Mandy at all personally knew of her because of what happened in their, again, tight-knit community that everybody was involved with her disappearance and helping in some way. So then the investigators asked Timothy for a voluntary DNA sample. Now remember, just earlier, when the investigators started going back through the files again in 2009, they found all these different people that were in that area at the time, and they went to them, and every one of them turned over a voluntary DNA sample. Not saying that they have to, but they did. And when they ran them, they all came back not a match. However, when they asked Timothy, he declined. He was like, no, I'm not going to give you my DNA sample. So, of course, this really made Timothy their number one suspect. This is when the investigators decided that they were going to go to Timothy's workplace, that bakery outlet. They were hoping to get Timothy's DNA from maybe somewhere in his truck, the one that he drove for work. However, when they got there, they spoke to the manager, Kim, and they told her that there was an employee there that they were investigating. Now, Kim was hesitant to help. They did not tell Kim what they were investigating for at first. They just said, we're investigating. And of course, Kim, the boss, she's like, listen, she probably needed her driver at the point too. She told them they needed to contact HR. So, I mean, I could see that as a manager being like, listen, I'm not going to be no part of that. The investigators are like, can you get us, we're investigating him. Can you get us some of his maybe cigarette butts? And she's like, listen, you need to contact HR. I can't help you with this. So then the investigators went and they contacted corporate. And this is where they were told that they needed a search warrant in order to collect any information on Timothy from them. So the investigators, they were completely stuck again. I mean, they couldn't necessarily use like, well, the evidence that we have, Judge, to get this search warrant is two women sitting at a water park talking about this weird experience. However, several years later, Kim, that manager, realized one night when she was talking with some of her friends that the man that the investigators wanted information on was Timothy Bass and that he had lived in the same street as Mandy. So she had a light bulb. She realized, oh, that's what they were investigating him for. They're not just investigating him for some little crime. It was that situation with that young 18-year-old college freshman, Mandy. She said that it was a complete light bulb that went off, and this made her much more willing to help. So when the investigators came back to her work and asked her again for information on Timothy, she was ready to give it to him. She took the detective into her office and asked him if he was in fact investigating Timothy in connection with Mandy. When they told her yes, Kim gave them access to everything they wanted.
The Tim Bass I knew, he was different. He was weird. You just never knew what Tim was going to be at work that day. The smallest thing would anger him. And so you tend to kind of stay away from people like that. At this point, I'm thinking I'm working with somebody that potentially did this to Mandy. And I gotta know.
Strangely, the investigators learned that Timothy started wearing gloves while he was working, and he didn't seem to throw anything personal away in the trash cans at work. Reminds me of somebody else we've talked about here recently, almost like he was trying to hide his stuff. He would take his trash all the way home with him. The investigators could not outright ask the manager to collect the evidence for them. They did say, however, that they could accept any evidence that was brought to them. So it's like, listen, we cannot legally ask you for anything or ask you to do anything, but if you bring us something, I mean, we might as well. We can test it. So Kim went for it. She watched Timothy very closely, and one day, when Timothy got a drink from the water cooler, he threw his plastic cup in the trash can. Kim said that she ran over to the trash can. Her heart was absolutely pounding. She grabbed the cup, and she also grabbed one of his Coke cans that he threw away as well. So he got caught slipping. He had been taking his stuff home with him for a long time after the investigators started questioning him, but at this point, he was feeling comfortable. When the investigators sent the cup and the can out for testing, it was a match. Timothy's DNA matched the DNA that was found on Mandy's body. In 2017, Timothy was officially charged with Mandy's murder. Mary, Mandy's mother, was 81 years old, and she was alive to see Timothy get arrested. Man, that family went through it. I've said this before in other videos too. I cannot imagine what it's like especially when you're living in a small town where everybody knows everybody, and the person has not been arrested and they have no suspect. I mean, you're constantly looking at the mailman, the delivery driver for years. Was it you? Was it you? Was it this person? Was it my neighbor? Like, you probably are always thinking those things. Anyways, Timothy's trial started in 2019, all these years after the incident happened. The prosecution presented DNA evidence that linked Timothy to the crime scene. Now, Timothy maintained his innocence by saying that he and Mandy had consensual relations. How interesting, because his defense team was never able to explain if that were true, why Timothy didn't just come forward and report this supposed relationship with Mandy after her passing. There was also no proof of any communication ever between Timothy and Mandy, like any kind of letters or phone calls or anything. So then Timothy claimed that Mandy just randomly showed up at his house the day that she disappeared. No one was buying this story either. Now, at first, Timothy's wife, Gina, got up there and testified and claimed that he was actually with her on the day of the incident. She said that on the way to Timothy's house that day, she saw Mandy running. However, before the trial was over, Gina ended up filing for a divorce, and then she came back to the investigators to tell them the truth, and it was that she lied about being Timothy's alibi. She even got up and testified that Timothy asked his mother if they could blame his late father for Mandy's passing.
He asked her, can we say Dad did it?
Okay, and what was he referring to?
The Mandy Stavik.
Okay. And what was the response of Sam Crevasse? What did she do anything physically? Did she?
Yeah, she put her hands over her face and like this and paused for a minute and then said no.
And as far as the defendant's father, Dad, was he alive at that time?
No.
Had he been deceased for a period of time?
Yes.
Timothy's younger brother, Tom, testified as well. Now, remember, Tom was actually friends with Mandy back in high school, and he testified that Timothy was very anxious after that day when the investigators came and asked him for a voluntary DNA sample. He said that Timothy had told him that day that he and Mandy had actually slept together, and he even asked Tom to tell the investigators that he too had slept with Mandy, to try to make it seem like Mandy was just out running, sleeping around with anybody and everybody. Tom told Timothy that he was not going to lie to the investigators. On May 24th of 2019, Timothy was found guilty of first-degree murder. And at his sentencing hearing, Timothy gave a statement.
I would first like to say that I'm 100% innocent of this crime. Furthermore, I don't believe I received a fair trial. In saying that, though, a better man in me says I should say very little today. I give this day to the Stavik family. Sir, I would like to address one thing. I love my father. He was my best friend. We did everything together. He died in an accident on February 17, 2002, and I have not been the same since. I gave his eulogy, I wrote his obituary. In my garage, I made a kind of memorial to him. For my ex-wife, under oath, to get on that stand and say I tried to blame this on him. That is hard to take. I have never been arrested before. I've never been unemployed. I don't do drugs. I don't drink. I've been married for almost, or I was married for almost 30 years. I raised 3 great children, 2 of them on the autism spectrum. While this investigation was going on, I actually delivered to this jail twice a week until 2016 when there was route changes. I think that says a lot right there. They're saying that I was in fear, scared. I delivered to this jail. I've tried to be respectful and kind in my 1.5 years that I've been here. It is very hard to do when you're being accused of something like this. I will continue to be this way. This is just the way I am. I wish no ill will towards anyone here, not even today. But I am having a hard time with this. That's all I have to say.
The judge gave Timothy the maximum sentence that he could possibly give him, and that was 27 years in prison. His soonest release date is on January of 2036, and he's currently 55 years old. Prosecutors say that because it wasn't premeditated, this was the max amount of time that Timothy could actually be given. Now, I didn't mention this in the beginning of the video, but Mandy actually had an older brother named Brent who also tragically passed away. Back in 1975, when they still lived in Anchorage, Alaska, Brent was actually shot and killed. His case still remains unsolved as well. Mary, Mandy's mother, has said that she finds comfort in knowing that the man responsible for Mandy's murder has finally been brought to justice. It's sad that I have to say that I'm happy for her mom to have had that peace, because it's a peace that she should have never had to have had or never wanted to have, right? However, when you think about her other son, who tragically lost his life and it went unsolved, and then her daughter. And you guys, I watched so many interviews about this young lady, Mandy, and she was going to be like a superstar. She really was great at everything, big personality. And I'm saying this because I'm looking at it from her mother's point of view, right? Like, she's got her daughter after she had 3 kids at this time, but what had happened with Brent, her son, and then this happens with her daughter, who is like this shining star, and it's unsolved as well too. I cannot imagine how her mother slept, if she slept, how the family slept. Again, this town, everybody knows everybody, and the person that did it too, which she didn't know at the time, thank God, because she probably really would have come unglued, lived right down the road from her. Let me know what you guys think in the comments section down below. I don't like these stories in the instance of these types of things happen, but I do appreciate the fact that sometimes cases, people think they're going to get away with something, and you never know. 10, 20, 30 years down the road, just like with the Golden State Killer, they can come back and get you. Let me know what y'all think down below. Other than that, I love y'all. Thank y'all so much for watching this video, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Love you guys. Bye.